Hello everybody, here we are today doing my Week 5 CFL picks, and we're going to be getting on into that. But before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or the CFL, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So I got to be honest, I'm in a bit of a hurry here as I'm recording the night before, as I started a part-time job and I'm going to be getting like additional training after I get out of work. So basically this thing has got to be recorded and going out tonight, so that way you guys can watch it tomorrow, which will be Wednesday. So kicking it off, of course, things went pretty well for me compared to how things have gone in other weeks, as I went 3-1 in my picks for Week 4. This week, of course, we have some fun games, as you have the Toronto Argonauts playing the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And this one feels a little bit confusing because Saskatchewan is a team that could be the favorite, as they are undefeated and 3-0 on the year. However, with them coming off the bye, again, you're kind of thinking, yeah, maybe they are the favorite, but Trevor Harris is on the 6-game injured list and is out for the foreseeable future. That could be a really big blow for this team, as he has been part of this side that has been able to win those 3 games. Was it all perfect? No, but they have been a side that has at times not been able to run the ball. Part of that is because they were playing from behind. Also, AJ Ouellette wasn't getting a lot of big carries or anything like that. And now you are seeing whether or not Shea Patterson can be the guy that can step up in the short term for Saskatchewan to try to go out there and continue to be a playoff team. In recent years, we'd see Saskatchewan get off to a good start, then we'd see them kind of fade in the middle and then just plummet in the back end of the season. This is where they prove things are a little bit different, as you have a new head coach and a whole lot of new players. I want to see whether or not the Riders are able to at least play 500 football in this time, but their upcoming schedule is not exactly fun either. They play Toronto, they play BC, I think they have Montreal in the mix, and also Winnipeg. And I know Winnipeg is 0-4, but still, you got to watch out for them, as they could have the Riders' number. As for Toronto, they are 2-1 on the year, I do believe, and are good, but also dealing with injuries. I feel like in the moment, if I got to be honest here, with it all coming down to Patterson compared to Dukes, and all of this being said, I think I'm going to go Toronto. I feel like the Argos are a side that I expected to be good, and I'm not going to really discredit what Saskatchewan's been able to do at this point in the season, but the Argos have a roster that I like, and I know that some of the guys are out of the lineup, but I will say I've been really impressed with what Dukes has been able to do so far to start off the season, and the Argos are a team that's been able to perform better than I thought in recent years. And this year I actually bought into what they're able to do. The Riders haven't necessarily convinced me yet to this point in the season. If they are able to continue that success, then they will. But at the moment, I'm picking the team that I had a better feeling about. Now, Friday, things get interesting, as you have the Ottawa Redblacks traveling to Winnipeg to play the Blue Bombers. Ottawa is 2-1. Winnipeg is 0-5. Who would have thought at this point in the season you would have the Blue Bombers without any passing touchdowns, and then Ottawa that has a winning record? Not a lot of people would have thought that going into this. And I think this is a weird one because Zach Collaros, I don't exactly know what the injury information is at the moment. Again, I've been super busy, but yesterday I couldn't find whether or not he was going to be playing in this game. Whereas Ottawa needed a Lewis Ward last-second field goal to be able to win that game against Hamilton. I feel very conflicted here because for this season, I am 0-4 when I picked Winnipeg to win the games, because I thought eventually it would be their day. If Striveler is in the lineup, I don't necessarily think it's going to happen. Kenny Lawler out for the year. Dalton Schoen. And there are some other pieces, like they did sign Lucky Whitehead recently. This is going to be fun to see him back for Winnipeg, but I still feel a little bit skeptical. Their fortress mindset is kind of gone, as they've lost the past 2 games at home, I believe. And Ottawa is kind of a feisty team. You got to watch out for him, as Drew Brown is going to be back and making his first appearance in Winnipeg and getting that start. It's going to be really cool to see how the fans react to how he's going to be doing for the Red Blacks, but I'm hoping that he gets a good reception. So we're not going to necessarily nitpick this one too much, but I think I'm going to say if Collaros is out of the lineup, then I'm going to be picking Ottawa, but it's not something I feel very comfortable with. If Collaros is in the lineup, I am prepared to pick them and go 0-5, as they would possibly slide to 0-5. And at that point, I'm not going to say that they are the next BC Lions where they go out and, go 11-2 or something like that and go on to win the Grey Cup. At that point, it comes down to we need to find a way to get back in the playoffs and then see if things can click by the end of the year. And if not, see exactly what's going to have to change for the team, because I keep thinking, oh, it's just one game, but then you get further in the year and you realize we're about a third of the way through the season and Winnipeg doesn't have any wins. BC, they've got multiple wins. You have Calgary that is 2-1, Saskatchewan 3-0. Not a guarantee at this point that the Blue Bombers are going to be able to keep their playoff streak alive. So I am really excited for this one. Probably more excited for this one than the Toronto-Saskatchewan game. And then you have the Saturday game between the Calgary Stampeders and the Montreal Alouettes. I think Calgary is possibly going to be a team that is going to be better than what I thought they would be. And I think Montreal looks better than what I even thought they'd be. I thought Montreal was going to be in a great spot to compete and possibly win the East Division. Going to be really easy when they are 4-0. Calgary picked up a win over the Blue Bombers in overtime last week. And for the Stampeders, this is a really big test to prove whether or not they're able to say, yeah, we are kind of in the tier where you'd say they are a playoff lock, if you will, if they beat Montreal on the road. Meanwhile, the Owls have won 12 in a row and are just a team that can do it on both sides of the ball. You know the offense can be a little bit more effective than maybe you expected them to be at the start of the year. And then the defense, you know they can force turnovers. You know that they can get sacks if they need to. And they have a lot of guys in this lineup that is very likable. I think for this game, I would probably say I'm leaning more towards the Owls because, again, I felt better about them going into the year. Whereas Calgary, I'm still a little bit more out on the fence for. And until the Owls get beat, I might as well just keep going with them. Whereas I keep picking things wrong for the Blue Bombers, I can just kind of make up for that with picking Montreal to win this game. I'm excited to see what's going on here because Montreal being good and seeing how this impacts the community and the fans is all really fun. And it's just good to see, considering how part of the 2010s went for them. Grey Cup champion, maybe going back-to-back again would be really cool. And then the final game of the week, you have two cats fighting as you have the BC Lions and the Hamilton Tiger Cats squaring off. This one is going to be weird because Hamilton is trying to get their first win and BC is trying to keep things going for them as they had a win against Edmonton that was relatively close. Looking at this one, you would think BC, but they have been blowing teams out of the water. They have been able to move the ball and get a lot of first downs and things like that. But they are not, doing what I was hoping they would do, winning as comfortably as I'd like them to see. They're seeing injuries. Again, that's going to be something that happens during the year. And for Hamilton, this is a game that feels like a must-win because Toronto, if they win, again, kind of getting another lead. And if Ottawa beats Winnipeg, that really puts them in a bad spot because Calgary, BC, Saskatchewan, probably going to be claiming those 3 spots out west. And then out east, Montreal, I mean, at this point, let's just go out there and see it. They're a lock. Toronto, I'd feel better and better about each week. And if Ottawa gets out to being 3-1, Hamilton is going to be a team that you might see them ship out players and say, yeah, this isn't working. I'm not saying that the season is necessarily done for Hamilton, but it feels like it's pretty close to being there. Again, they are like Winnipeg, where you realize you're about a third of the way through the year, and they just aren't getting it done. They've had some close games, and I think for a lot of these teams, we haven't seen just this gargantuan blowout and just have a totally awful point differential, but you can't keep making excuses, and I thought for what we saw with Hamilton, where they went like 5-5 in the second half of the year last season, and they were scoring like 28 points per game or something like that on that average, they were going to be a little bit better. They nearly convinced me they were going to be better than what I thought about them going into the season. But they're not right now, even though they've got the pieces on offense that I feel a little bit more excited about. And defensively, there's plenty to be excited about there as well, too. They just aren't in a spot where they're going to be able to win a division title for the near future. So as boring as it sounds, I'm going to be picking BC to go on and win this game. They are the better team, but again, they've been making me really uncomfortable lately trying to watch their games and seeing them play close, even though, again, I think they could really go out there and put it to a team. But I don't know. Also, I know that I fell asleep halfway through the BC-Edmonton game last week where Vern was trying to force balls to Hollins. We'll see how that goes this week as you've got a lot of weapons you're going to try to use. And I do love a good Hollins game where he has a lot of yards. But hey, we don't necessarily have to throw it to him all the time. Anyway, what are your thoughts on the games this week? As I am going to be picking Toronto, Winnipeg. Who's the second game of the week? Hold up. Toronto, maybe Winnipeg, Montreal, and then BC. Kind of picking the favorites, kind of not. We'll see how this all plays out. Anyway, what are your thoughts on this week and this action in the CFL? Do you think your team is going to win this week? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe and have a great night.